Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where some people think they can do what they want, when they want, and no one else matters. And in today's episode, people are sharing their wild stories about dealing with over-the-top Karen customers while at work. Tantrums are being thrown, cops are getting called. It gets way worse, guys. So sit back and enjoy the stories today. And remember, this voice right here should only be on the Dark Fluff YouTube channel. Let's dive in. This is a very standard setup. I work in a small clothing retail store in a mall. I'm the supervisor, and I was the only one at the till when this happened. This one lady had some standard returns and purchase, which is whatever. Her child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, was playing with the bracelet set while we did our transaction. We finished up and the lady said, "Okay, give the bracelet to that lady, let's go." And the child did actually give it back. I said thank you and they went to leave. Well, the mom leaves and the child comes running back into my store to look for the bracelet. Mom comes back to look for her and the child ends up crying how she wants the bracelet and she's not leaving until she gets the bracelet. I just figure, whatever, the parent's gonna handle it, none of my business. Until the kid comes running behind me and the tills, trying to find this bracelet. Mom's just standing on the other side, looking exasperated, and she's saying in that gentle parenting voice, "Come on, sweetie, we have to go." Right about now, this kid's trying to dig through my stuff. Bags, clothes, whatever's behind the tills. And I say to the mom, "Hey, if you want to come back here and grab her, that's fine." Mom doesn't reply though, she just continues staring. At that point, I had to step in. There's sharp pins for security tags and stuff, and I had more customers to help. So as the kid was running to hide from mom, I stuck my arm out to block her. And holy crap, you would think I broke this kid's arm, she screamed so loud. Like that toddler, ear-piercing wail. And where's her mom, you ask? Well, she's just standing there, and she's now looking mad at me. And she has the audacity to say, "Well, that was embarrassing. Why would you do that?" While glaring at me. The kid then bolts around my store again, grabbing things and throwing them off the shelves, and had another screaming, crying fit on the floor. Again, mom just stands there. Now, I'm not a parent, and I do understand the whole let kids have the tantrum idea, but I was under the impression that you move them from the upsetting situation. The joy of retail is, though, I had to email my district manager the whole story, just in case this woman says I tried to hurt her child. And the ridiculous thing is I got a slap on the wrist from my manager because I should never touch a customer's child. She doesn't want me or other employees to intervene with children, even though they're destroying the store, because she would rather have the company get sued than us personally, if that makes sense. And here's an update. When I went to work on a different day, the same mom and child were in the store. And yet again, the mom's on the other end of the store while this kid's trying to pull our mannequins over. I just looked at my manager and I said, "Dibs out." So she went over and she told this kid to please not touch the mannequins. As soon as the mom heard that, she throws a fit. The mom then threw the shirt on the till and she said, "Well, I didn't see anything I want today anyways. Your store sucks." My manager's actually concerned that this lady's trying to cause trouble to find a lawsuit, so she might get banned if she returns. Gentle parenting sucks. Honestly, I don't think that's gentle parenting. Like what OP witnessed that day is no parenting, in my opinion. Especially when all Karen was doing was letting her child destroy the place and just watching. And a lot of people in the comments are saying if something isn't done, this kid's probably gonna grow up to be a super entitled monster. Like the man in this next post, guys. Listen to this. So I've been holding on to this story for a while, and I'm finally in the mood to post this disgusting a-hole's behavior. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. About 4 years ago, I was wrapping up my bachelor's degree, and I was working a full-time job at a restaurant that has free rolls. I'm very young and female, so initially, when someone asked for a manager, they're shocked to see me come to their table. That said, it was an extremely slammed Friday, and I was the only manager there past 6 o'clock. One of the cooks had cut his hand open, so I was dropping stuff on the fry side, sliding over to help with burgers, all that stuff. Dripping sweat and obviously weeded, a server comes to me, and she says, so my table wants to talk to a manager. I wipe my face and fix my hair as I approach front of house. This sleeveless man has his arms crossed, and he's got a smug look on his face. I say, "Hi, what's going on, guys?" He then laughs out loud and he says, "Wow, you're the manager? That's cute. My wife's steak is overcooked." I look over to the dissatisfied wife, arms folded over her spray paint tank top, and she looks furious. I apologize and I ask how she wanted it cooked. She then says, not like this. I wanted it medium and this thing's burnt." So I go to the back and I get a new steak cooking as soon as possible. It's brought out within 4 minutes and I drop it off and tell them to enjoy. They flag me down 2 minutes later and the wife starts screaming at me saying, aren't you gonna ask how my steak is? You did not ask for me to cut into it at all. That's when I reply, of course, I was making my way back over here. You guys aren't the only table in the restaurant, so I'm having to be everywhere. How is it? And this is where things escalate. This effing piece of crap husband actually grabs my wrist and the guy squeezes it hard. He then puts the steak in my face and he says, "This is garbage. Would you eat this BS? No. Now pick it up." And the guy throws the steak on the floor. That's when I lost all my wits and I jerk my hand back and I say, "Don't you ever effing touch me like that again." The guy laughs at my disgust. He then throws his rolls and butter packets on the floor and he begins screaming at me to clean it up. I just tell him, "No, get the F out." I pointed to the door, having snapped. He then has the nerve to say, "Did you just curse at me?" I reply, "Yes, I did. Now you and your wife need to pay and get the F out." At this point, the entire restaurant's looking, and this man kicks his chair back and he puts his hand behind his head in smugness. He then says to me, "I'm not going anywhere. This meal is free. And after this whole thing, I'm gonna be eating at this place for free for life." I respond, "Yeah, no, I doubt that, and I suggest you go, now effing leave." He then mocks my hand movements looking to others, and he says, "Can you believe this? This is hilarious. I can't wait for the gift cards to roll in. I'm gonna be eaten free for life here." I just walked away with everyone in the restaurant gone silent and their phones out recording the psychopath. I quickly called 911 and I said, "There's a belligerent man," and they actually had the nerve to stay and wait for police. As I approach the table with the officers, I say, "That's him." I told the police that I wanted him and his wife out, but not before they pay their full tab. The sleeveless man's irate at this point. He's cursing and throwing his ice cup at everyone. As the sleeveless man stood outside, I told the cops he was no longer allowed on the premises, and ain't nobody getting nothing for free today. The wife surprisingly hands me her debit card with her face buried in her hair in embarrassment. I don't think she expected it to get to that point. The guy got into a fight with the cops because he tried to come back inside, and when that didn't work, he yelled at his wife and he ends up getting arrested and delivered a no-contact order. And to think all of this happened over a steak that was cooked wrong. Like, what is going on with that man? And you gotta love the smugness as well, right? After this, I'm gonna be eating here for free, forever. Ridiculous, I tell you. And if you think what that man did was wild, here's another restaurant story. So back in my late teenage years, early college, I was hired on to open a new restaurant in our area, an Italian place. We go through the process of training in hotels while it's being built, and I was going to start out as a hostess to get the feel of the inner workings at this particular place. Good times. On our second night of cold opening, where you basically had to be invited, it happened. I had sat at a table of a well-to-do man and a couple of his equally well-off buddies. I was 19 years old. They were late 40s, early 50s. It was a lovely interaction, and I expected nothing else through their visit. I got them squared away and walked back up to the host stand to snag my laminated copy of the table chart. I walked back by this table, checking on open and soon-to-be-open tables, and that's when this man slaps my butt as I walk by. In a shocked reaction of what happened, I turn around and I point-blank frisbee this chart as hard as I could into this man's neck. Into his effing neck. And you know how sharp those laminated edges are. I drew blood. I then screamed, "What the F?" The place just goes quiet. I'm still crapping bricks at this point, thinking that I had slashed this guy's jugular and now I'm going to jail. I tried to pull myself together as quickly as possible. I leapt to his table, just spewing apologies for reacting like that, and again, I was 19 years old. I didn't know better. He and his bros at this point were laughing so hard, the only noise was their wheezing. They had tears rolling down their faces. The manager now runs to the table, and before he could get out a response, the man who smacked me starts talking. He reaches into his back pocket and he pulls out his wallet. The guy apologizes profusely to me, saying he didn't know what came over him, and he wasn't hurt by anything but his actions, and I'm thinking, for F's sake. The guy then puts 5 $20 bills in my hand, and he apologized so many more times throughout the whole evening. After he and his tribe waddled out, I was doing my thing with the chart again, and passing by, a few random tables kept handing me money, saying to me, "We haven't laughed that hard in ages, you made our night." Forget the fact that he basically assaulted me in front of all of you, thanks for the cash. So yeah, that's my story of how I profited off a butt slap. I wasn't written up or fired, and I took down a grown-ass man with a laminated chart. I'll never forget that night. You know what, I honestly think OP's response was completely appropriate, and in my opinion, the absolute least she could have done. Like, the only thing I wish OP didn't do was to start apologizing to that idiot for slicing him with that laminated sheet. And apparently, guys, this happens way more than you think. This person comments and says, "Great story. Once, while waitressing, I had a guy grab my butt, and I just had enough that day, so I wheeled around, grabbed his crotch, and I twisted. The guy dropped like a ton of bricks. So validating." And this person says, in the 80s, some moron linebacker type mistook my 5'2" ex for a waitress, and he tried to stuff some bills into her chest at a bar. She decked him and she stomped on his face, and the best part, he was an off-duty cop. So when this happened, I was working at a small-town grocery store as a lowly cashier. And with it being a small town, you often get super entitled folk and people who are not all there in the head. That said, we had these chores we had to do before the end of each shift. My particular chores were facing the medicine aisle, facing the bread, cleaning the bathroom, you get the gist. So here's the incident in question. I'm facing this damn medicine aisle, so many boxes, and of course, as I'm straightening out the Tylenol, some other random boxes fall off the shelf and onto the floor. I turn around to pick up the fallen boxes, and there is a little boy. I think he was 7 years old, based on his size and communication skills. The kid was picking up the boxes for me, and he says, "Here, miss, you dropped these." I just smile and thank him. As he's handing me the boxes, this effing lady comes barreling down the aisle and she starts screaming at me. She'll be referred to as Crazy Lady. This woman screams at me and says, "What the heck do you think you're doing?" I respond, "I'm sorry." And she goes on to say, "You heard me. Why are you trying to poison my son?" I look at the kid and he looks at me. We both look at his mom, look at the boxes, and look at each other again. I respond, I'm not. I dropped these boxes and he was being really sweet and picking them up for me. She then says, "No, you were trying to give my kid medicine when he's not sick. I will sue your effing ass." Hearing that, I'm so confused, and I respond, "Ma'am, how exactly am I giving?" She interrupts me, and she screams at the top of her lungs, "You know exactly what you're doing. Get the F away from my son." I look at the kid again, and he's just as baffled as I am. She starts screaming at her kid to get away from me, and he looks at me, and I hear him mumble, "I'm really sorry." And at this point, I felt so bad for this kid. She then says, "You probably do this to kids all the time, don't you? Well, I've got you now, bitch." Like, she said that exact line to me. And I respond, "You know what? Yes, you got me. I give kids medicine for fun all the time, at my workplace too, right in the open aisles. Would you like me to get a manager?" She then says, "You bet your ass I would like to talk to a manager. And after that confession, I'm calling the police after I'm done with your manager. You will go to jail for the rest of your life." I honestly didn't know what to say at this point. My manager comes around the corner, and it turns out he was in the next aisle over, practically waiting for his cue because he was doubled over with laughter at the sheer ridiculousness. Just because I figured it would piss her off even more, I say to her, "Have a blessed day, ma'am." And I walk over to the next aisle where I could still hear her, but I couldn't be seen. I can hear her saying to my manager, "Your employee is trying to poison my son. There's something wrong with her. I'm calling the police and suing her and this place if she's not fired." My manager says, "Well, I can't confirm whether or not she tried to do that as I didn't see it, but you can go ahead and call the police. I will be waiting for you and them at guest services." He then promptly walks away, and this lady does call the police, screaming at the dispatcher that there was a murderer at this store and management was refusing to help her. The police got there in record time, I think. My manager ends up going outside to talk with the police and this woman, and they asked if her son could sit on the chair we had at the front while they sorted things out. I didn't hear the conversation, but guess who came to visit me? Her kid. He shuffles to my register, and this is what happened with us. The kid apologizes, and he says, "I'm really sorry about my mom. I don't want you to go to jail." I respond, "Don't you worry, buddy. I'm not going to jail. If you want, though, you can pick out any candy you want, and I'll pay for it myself." Hearing that, his eyes light up, and he grabs a Kit Kat. I rang up the Kit Kat and paid for it. He then opens it and gives me a piece. And guys, my heart's made out of ice, and oh my, he absolutely melted my heart. After this exchange, everyone comes back in, and the police take my statement. They kept making offhanded comments directed towards the lady and her being insane. They asked me what the medicine in question had been, and I told them children's vitamins. They're still on the floor right there if you want to go take a look. At that point, they glanced at each other and they went back outside with the kid. I don't know what actually happened after that. So I work as a mechanic at a family-owned buy here, pay here dealership in the middle of small-town USA. The pay isn't that great, but since the owner lets us work on our own cars after hours, among other nice perks, that more than makes up for it. So it isn't unusual to see one of us still in the shop after we've closed, changing our oil, doing our brakes and whatnot. I was in the shop on a Saturday afternoon, as we close on Saturdays, doing some routine maintenance on my Camaro. I'm enjoying the nice weather when I get a visitor. This one woman pulls up with steam billowing out from under her hood of her Impala, and I can hear the engine making a loud knocking sound. She gets out and she tries the front door. It's locked. However, I did have the back garage door open for circulation, and she walks around and she gets through the open door. She says to me, "Are you open?" Before I had a chance to respond, she says, "Oh good, you're open. My car just started smoking and it's been making this weird sound. Can you fix it?" To which I respond, "Sorry ma'am, we're closed. I'm just here fixing my car. However, we open at..." She then says, "What? What do you mean you're closed? You're literally open right now working on a car. I have to get this fixed so my son and I can go meet my husband." I reply, "Yeah, we're closed right now and we open at 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning. Sorry, you have to wait." She then says, "Surely, you can make an exception, right? I can't drive my car like this. You have to look at it." Right about now, her kid gets out of the car and joins her. I say, "No, I don't have to, and you both need to leave because I'm leaving soon. I have to lock up." She then says, No, we're not leaving until you look at this car. And who's your manager?" After another minute or two of telling her she needs to leave, the good idea fairy strikes, and I smirk and say, "Okay, sure, I'll take a look." The woman has this smug look on her face, thinking she's won. I sneakily unlock the door next to the garage door, and I close the garage door as Karen's walking out with her kid. I walk up to her car and it's still running. The steam's turning to smoke and there's smoke coming out of the tailpipe. The knocking sound is getting way worse. I make exaggerated motions and sounds as I look at this dying automobile. I then turn around and I say to Karen, "There you go, I looked at it." She then sputters and says, "What? No, that's not what I meant. Look at it and fix it. You didn't even open the hood." I'm just playing along as this is pure gold, and I say, "Okay, sure." I pop open the hood and I lift it up, and that's when I hear a loud bang come from the engine. The engine dies, and I'm thinking, yep, she just threw a rod. So I tell Karen, "Well then, you just threw a rod and you're not going anywhere soon." I close the hood and I walk back over to her, and she's got this completely shocked look on her face. I say, "Ma'am, your engine's toast. You need to replace it. There's nothing I can do right now. If you have roadside assistance, please give them a call." I start walking back to go inside when she spins me around and says, "What did you do? You broke my car. Now fix it or buy me a new one." I just tell her, "Ma'am, this car was done for when you drove it in. I did nothing but what you instructed me to do. Now I'm going home. The diagnosis fee's usually $50, but I'll waive that for now. If you want us to try to do something for you, come back Tuesday morning when we open." This is when the kid walks up to his mom and he says, "Mommy, are we still meeting Daddy for dinner?" That's when Karen says to him, "I'm sorry, honey, we won't because this man's being selfish and mean. He won't fix our car today." Of course, hearing that, the kid breaks down and he starts wailing in despair. He then charges at me, trying to knock me down or something, telling me he wants to see Daddy. I just quickly duck in the door and let the kid bang on it. As she's doting on him, I close and lock the back garage door and I start packing my stuff up to go home. All the while, she's now banging on the door as well. I grab the back garage door opener and leave, and she chases after me in the parking lot, throwing garbage at my car. I think nothing of it. Out of curiosity, I drive past work the next day, and her car's gone, which I think less to explain to the boss. Fast forward to Tuesday morning. I show up for work, and who else but Karen sitting there waiting for us to open. She goes on a tirade to my supervisor that I broke her car and I did something to it when I lifted the hood and left her there stranded, that I owe her a new car. I give my side of the story while she calls me a liar, and then we go to the owner and we review the security camera footage, which clearly shows her going around the back, her kid attacking me, and her throwing junk at my car as I left. To end it all, she demands I be fired. She was laughed at and then banned from the premises for attempting to assault an employee. And while I was told that I shouldn't have egged her on, they still said my idea was funny and they let me go. Yeah, I just love how she tried to get a free car out of that, guys. But you know what they say, you miss all the shots you don't take. So kudos to her for even trying that. As for her trying to make OP feel guilty when saying to her son that this man refuses to fix our car, like I really hate when people do that, and good on OP for not catering to her demands, even though there wasn't anything they could have done. Let me tell you about the craziest encounter I've ever had working in retail. So at the time, I was working at a place that sells undergarments for both men and women. Men's was actually our best-selling department. The most important fact to know in this story is that boxers cost more than boxer briefs. Moving right along. So, you know how customers just love to pick things up and abandon them in the wrong place? Well, this time, that ends up with a butterfly effect, in which we needed to call the police and get security escorts to our cars at the end of night, due to this absolutely psychotic man not getting his way. We had both a wall lined with products for men, as well as a couple of bins in the men's section for excess stock for customers to take what they needed. One of those bins contained boxer briefs, and I'm sure you all know where this is going. I'm just doing my job when a large red-headed man, at least 6 foot tall, 250 pounds muscular, walks up to my coworker's register. He's holding a pack of boxers and a pack of socks to get our buy one, get one 50% off promotion. This is the crazy man. My coworker, who's a little tiny old lady, rings up his items and tells him his total. I'm on the register next to her as it's a busy weekend day, so I can hear all of this and the man starts flipping out. I can hear him say, "Why is it so expensive? I didn't pick up anything that expensive." My coworker says to him, "Well, the socks cost this much and the boxers cost this much, so with the sale, that's what the total comes to." The man of course loses it and says, "No, the boxers cost less than that. I read the sign, they definitely cost less." My coworker then says, "Would you mind showing me where you pick these up, sir?" The crazy man marches over to the boxer brief bin. And my coworker says, "I'm sorry, sir. It looks like another customer put these in the wrong spot," pointing to where the boxers are on the wall. She tells him they're actually this much. My manager was in the men's section and stopped what she was doing to listen in. The man says, "Well, you had them in the wrong place, so you have to honor that price, don't you?" Coworker tells him, "Sir, I don't have control over where customers leave things. There are no boxers in this bin. They cost this much. If it was an error on our part, I would honor it, but it isn't." He then keeps screaming at her, "You need to honor the price." To which she tells him, "I can remove this item if you're not interested." And his response is, "Are you stupid? You need to do what I said." And that's when the manager intervenes. Manager says, "Excuse me, sir, what seems to be the problem?" He tells her, "I found boxers in this bin and your stupid employee won't honor the price." Manager tells him what my coworker says, and she says, "I'm sorry, sir. It looks like a customer put them in here. We can't give you the boxers for the price of boxer briefs." He then loses it and says, "I've never been in a store that treats customers like this. You need to give me this item at that price because that's where I found them." Manager tells him, "Sir, I don't have the authority to change prices." And right about now, the entire store has stopped and they're staring at a distance at this enraged linebacker of a man screaming. The guy just goes on and says, "Yes, you do. You can change the price, so do it now. You just don't want to." The manager tells him, "I can't do that, sir." And that's when he says, "I ought to punch you in your stupid mouth." The man's then asked to leave, and the whole time he's screaming, "No, you're gonna give me my boxers at the lower price, not your rip-off price," holding a finger to my manager's face. At this point, I called security, and a couple of people called police after the man threatened to punch my manager. He's still screaming, but I can't tell what he's saying. The police department's only a few minutes down the street from the store, so by the time I was finished with security, the police were in the store. They were escorting the man who was still raging out. The man was screaming for all of us to watch our backs. So even though the cops took him away in their cruiser, security did arrive later to escort me and my manager to our cars after closing. And in case you were wondering, this was all over $2.50. What a wild post that was, and honestly, unnecessary reaction from the guy. Like, imagine going to jail over $2.50. But listen, I do have a feeling that guy might have been roid raging. Like the way OP described him as being 6 foot tall, 250 pounds, and muscular, it's very likely the guy just had a little bit too much testosterone in his system. And this person comments, what are the odds that Mr. Rage is the one who put the boxers in the wrong bin, and then threw a fit when he couldn't get away with his little fraud? Whatever the case, only Mr. Rage will know. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/ entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/pro revenge episode. I haven't done those in a while, where bad bosses are absolutely getting destroyed and the stories are so satisfying. So go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.